of our presentation today. And I am very excited to introduce you to Dee Vining. And we are thrilled to have her here with us today because she's one of our esteemed educators from our Toronto location. So now Dee has gained years of experience when it comes to skincare and also massage therapy through business development, education. She's had training in over 8 different types of sports techniques, and she even owned her own business for about 10 years as well. Now, most recently, of course, she's joined the Dermalogica family, and she's here also too with the International Dermal Institute. So we are very lucky to have her because she has been empowering hundreds of skin therapists alike all over the world, including, of course, right there in her current hometown of Toronto, Ontario. And she just brings a wealth of knowledge, practical tips, all about how to ways to really maximize your movement implementation for a healthy body. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Dee so you guys can enjoy our topic today on human ergonomics.
Thank you so much for that, Beth. I am thrilled to be with you all this afternoon. This really is a topic and a subject that is so near and dear to my heart because, as Beth said, I've been in the industry for a really long time. I'm a skin therapist as well as a registered massage therapist. And for me, that movement and that health throughout the day and ensuring that we really are getting the best out of our day and the best out of our environment is so crucial to the longevity and happiness of our career. So for me, this is really something that I'm so stoked to discuss with you all today and really run through a ton of really incredible information, but also useful information, things that we can start to implement on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis to start making those small changes, small tweaks in our environment to ensure that we are the most comfortable. So like Beth said, my name is Dee, and I am an educator in the Toronto, Canada office. Just a little bit of background, I've only been in Canada for 3 years, so I'm still getting used to the winter. I have a feeling it will take at least another 15 years for me to get totally used to it, but have an absolute blast at Dermalogica. I love Dermalogica skincare products and I love the results that we have, but I also love the fact that we really take care of our professional skin therapists and we really take care of our tribe. And this is really core of how we can take care of everybody. So let's take a look at really what human ergonomics is. Ergo Plus defines it simply as the laws of work or the science of work. Ergonomics draws from many disciplines to optimize the interaction between the work environment and the worker. Human ergonomics, or more commonly known in the industry as human factors, focuses on any interaction amongst humans and the things that we do, the things or the objects that we connect with on a daily basis. It essentially comes down to the fit, the way that we fit into our environment, the way our environment can create ease of comfort, ease of movement, and minimize injuries down the road. So I want you to think about the way that we sit, the way that we stand, the way that we move throughout the day, but also those objects that we come into contact with on a daily basis. As professional skin therapists, that can be a treatment bed. It can be a product trolley. It can be a chair that we're using to sit on. If we're having administrative days or we're having a desk computer day, that can be the way the computer is related in terms of how far away it is from us. How close is the keyboard to us? What kind of desk are we using? What is our environment like in terms of ease of movement and in terms of comfort? And how well do we fit into that environment? That's really what human ergonomics comes down to. The more comfortable you are in your environment, the more you have that ability to move freely, the more you have that ease throughout your day, the less risk there is of getting injuries later down the road, the less risk there is of any muscle irritation or pain down the road. Now, if we think about this long term, this can also work at helping to target any long-term repetitive injuries or strain that we're sometimes predispositioned to in our industry. Now, during today's workshop, we're going to be covering a myriad of incredible information, but our big focuses are really going to be how we can implement proper movement. And when we're thinking about the way we move, it's those small tweaks and adjustments that we can make daily that have such major impacts on how our body feels at the end of the day. So thinking about our shoulder position, thinking about our elbow position, thinking about how we can warm up or cool down at the beginning and at the end of our days. Self-care, I know, has been a huge topic of late, especially with all of the changes that are happening in the world right now. So we're going to be covering some awesome information about how we can implement self-care, whether it's us doing it ourselves or the kind of treatments that we can use and implement into our daily lives so that we are feeling our optimal best physiologically and psychologically. We're also going to take a deeper dive into some anatomy and physiology, which is one of my favorite subjects, and really focus on two different factors, your fascia and your muscles, and get to understand how they work, what they do inside the body, and more so, what happens if they're not taken care of. So before we get into the heart of today's workshop, I want you to take a second to think about how ergonomics can affect your environment. Do you adjust your treatment bed every day before beginning any services? Do you adjust your chair height? Maybe if you do have an administrative day, do you adjust your desk height? Is there anything in your space of work that you adjust every day, or does it stay relatively static? Feel free to let me know in the chat box. So is there anything that you adjust in your environment on a daily basis? Do you adjust that treatment bed? Do you adjust your chair height? Are you adjusting any desk heights? Or is everything kind of static? Jane, you're adjusting your chair height, fantastic. Chris, all of the above, yes, okay. Lena, generally leaving things all the same. Adjust the bed, oh, an electric bed, fantastic. You adjust the head of the bed. Occasionally adjust my chair height, but mostly stays the same. Okay, fantastic. So I think an even kind of keel of both, chair height, table bed, fantastic blocks under the bed, some people staying the same. Okay, so sharing space, chairs and office beds get adjusted every day, fantastic. You adjust the treatment table, amazing. Okay, so we're all on the right track. If anyone answered no to one or more of those questions, this is going to be the ideal workshop for you. We're going to gain a ton of useful tips and tricks to think about minor adjustments in that treatment room. Now I want you to think about posture, and specifically bad posture. What does bad posture look like to you? What do you think you'd feel like if you had bad posture? If you could use one word to describe bad posture, what do you think it would be? What would your one word be? Slouching, slumped when the spine isn't in alignment. Hunched, slouching, slumped. Ouch, absolutely, Heidi, I love that. Ouch again, fantastic. Hunched over. Tight, Robin, yes, absolutely. Uncomfortable. These are saggy, definitely. So these are all the right descriptive words for bad posture. So today we're going to have a look at that environment that we discussed a couple of seconds ago, but also look at how we can change the way we feel so that we don't have that uncomfortable, tight feeling, that we don't have that bent over, slouched back. So look at a few corrective techniques that we can implement. Eileen, you're saying good mostly except when bending over to work occasionally. Okay, I love that you mentioned that. because that really is something that we're looking at in detail today, about how we feel and how we stand, how we sit, how we move around our clients when performing treatments. Now, I know a lot of you spoke about adjusting those treatment beds, adjusting those chairs, and that's fantastic. I love that you all include such incredible tips and tricks in your daily life to ensure that you are comfortable. So let's take a look in detail in both of those environments. Now, this can pertain to the professional skin treatment room, or it can even pertain to the day that we are spending in front of the computer, that we are spending sitting at our chair in front of our desk. Some things to be mindful of are things like your table height. Now, this can be your desk height, it can be your treatment bed height. Looking at what you're doing for majority of the day. Are you standing for most of your treatments or all of your treatments? Are you sitting throughout the day? Or maybe you're transitioning from sitting to standing and vice versa throughout the day. Throughout those movements and throughout those transitions, are you adjusting the height of your treatment bed or the height of your desk to ensure that you are comfortable in that environment? So really thinking about how you feel in your environment is crucial to maintaining that body health and wellness. Choosing the right kind of bed is also really critical. You generally have two different kinds of beds that you can choose. Your hydraulic bed, which I know a lot of you mentioned you had, which is fantastic. The awesome thing about a hydraulic bed is it allows for customization very easily. So you have the ability to use an automated control to either lift up, lower down, adjust the backrest, adjust the knee rest for your clients to ensure optimal comfort. But you also have the ability to adjust that height to suit the position that you're standing in for each individual client and each individual treatment that you're offering. Static tables are also a fantastic option because it provides consistency, but it doesn't necessarily provide that customization. So if you are someone who's doing relatively the same treatments in the same position throughout the day, every day, a static bed might work out better for you than a hydraulic bed. But if, like most of us, you have that change throughout the day, a hydraulic bed might provide you just a little bit more customization. Something to also keep in mind here is your table angle. Now, this comes into play more so with how our clients are lying down on our bed. And this can be in one of two positions. It can either be completely supine, which is lying completely flat on their backs, or it can include semi-fowlers. Now, semi-fowlers is when you lift the backrest up and your client will be sitting at an angle of 30 to 45 degrees. This can be because your client has back injuries, maybe they're just more comfortable that way. It can also be in case your client has asthma, sinus congestion, maybe an irritating cough. This can help your client feel a little bit more comfortable. But that also links back to your table height. How comfortable are you with that table height to adjust while your client is in a seated up position? That you want to ensure that your elbows are comfortable, that your wrist still has a lot of movement. You don't want to be hunching over the bed to try and perform your treatment, but rather have a more relaxed stance so that you can work around that treatment. You can work around your client comfortably. Feel free here to always adjust your client as needed. It's so important that our clients are comfortable, but it's also as important that we're comfortable when we're doing our treatment. So really getting your clients to get used to you saying, I'm just going to adjust you really quickly just to ensure that we're both comfortable. You might feel the bed raise, you might feel the bed lower, just as a forewarning. Now, if you are choosing to sit down in your treatment, choosing the right kind of chair is also very, very important. You'll find two different kinds of chairs, specifically in the skincare industry, where you'll have a flat top stool and a saddle style stool. Your flat top stool generally uses your calf muscles a lot more to keep you mobile throughout the day. It doesn't provide as much hip support, but remember here, it's not about the majority of people that prefer a certain kind of chair. It's about how it fits you. So is a flat top stool the best for you because you find it more comfortable than a saddle stool? That is more than enough reason to choose that kind of chair. Your saddle style stool generally leaves you about 10 inches higher than a flat top stool. It also changes the angle of your hips. So as opposed to that flat top stool where your hips are at a 90-degree angle, it changes it to about a 135-degree angle. And this in turn makes your body use those larger thigh muscles for support. So you're not putting as much pressure on those smaller calf muscles throughout the day. This also enforces proper movement of your hips, so ensuring that they rotate correctly, ensuring that they're more comfortable throughout the day. So if you have hip concerns, if you have maybe some hip pain starting, a saddle stool might be your better option. Linda's just saying, most times I don't realize I'm not in proper position and it takes an observer to mention. Totally, absolutely. You know, we tend to get in the groove of how we're doing things. And while we're in that groove, we may not be noticing, oh, my shoulder is really starting to hurt, or I don't understand why I've been standing on one foot for most of my treatment, right? It always happens. So it really is about that awareness and being more cognizant of how we're moving, what we're doing, how we're feeling, and trying to make those changes. Yeah, Chris, I think, you know, those key differences between a saddle stool and a flat top stool, if you find that a flat top stool isn't giving you what you want, and you may have achy hips or achy knees throughout the day, try out the saddle stool, see how it feels. Often you'll find that you can head into a beauty supply store and try out the chairs. So see how you feel on there and feel free to move around the way you would in a treatment room. So roll yourself over, maybe stretch from side to side to check in on that balance. But it really depends on you, because it's about how well it fits you. Something to also be very mindful of is where your products are, or where your computer is, where your pens are, where your pads of paper are. How easy is it for you to collect anything in your environment that you need for that workday? Is it maybe product that you have to really stand on your tippy toes to grab? Is it product that you have to get from the lower shelves? Remember, when you are collecting anything from a lower shelf, to always squat down, never bend from your back. How high or how low is that product placement? And how easy is it going to be for you to get? Something that I always think about in a professional treatment room is where your trolley is. That professional product cart is something that we constantly turn toward to pick up product 5-6 times a day, maybe. So often we don't consider moving that trolley from one side to the other. That results in muscles on one side becoming shorter because they're working so hard throughout the day, and muscles on the other side, the side that's stretching out, becoming so much longer, but also becoming lazier because they're not working as hard as the muscles on the left. So a small adjustment that you can do here, if your treatment room allows for it, is to alternate your cart. So maybe Mondays, the cart is on the left-hand side, Tuesdays, the cart is on the right-hand side. That ensures that you're getting rotation to either side, because that's going to allow movement in the rib cage, which will enhance your breathing, make sure that both sides are in equilibrium, they're both strong, both healthy, and neither side is becoming too long or too lazy. Oh, fantastic. Some of us are already alternating our carts. You're welcome, Jen. oh yes, okay, Eileen, wax on one side, facial trolley on the other. So maybe what you can do is try and alternate those trolleys as well. You know, if we're looking at a waxing trolley, we're grabbing that wax in a different way compared to the way we're getting the product from our facial trolley. So what you can do is even swap those trolleys around just to use a different side of your body. It all comes down to how dynamic we can create the movement in our environment. Let's take a deeper look and more so at an image in terms of how we spend our day at a computer. I'm just going to get my spotlight. There we go. So if we look at the image in the front, so on the left-hand side, here you'll be able to see how poor the posture is. You can see that the neck is slightly curved. You can see that there's definitely some slouching and hunching over in the shoulder. That lower back isn't being supported in any way. This person is almost sitting on the edge of their seat, so not very comfortable, not very supportive here. The wrists are also kind of in the air while they're typing. There's no support on the wrist here at all. And then the feet, while they are flat on the floor, are very staggered. So if this person had to sit completely flat on their chair with their back against the backrest, their feet would swing. Now I will let you in on some information here. I'm incredibly short, so my feet swing everywhere. So this is something that I'm always cognizant of, and it's always something I have to ensure that I have my feet flat on the floor, because that swinging all day, that lack of support that you have throughout the day, can even cause an accumulation of lymphatic fluid that can create more inflammation, more irritation inside those legs. So if you find at the end of the day, maybe your toes are a little bit puffy, maybe they're a little bit chubbier than the morning, your legs are a little bit swollen, it could be because of that improper support that you're getting from your chair. If you look at the image in the middle, you can see that this is rectified. So the neck is straighter, you have full view of the computer screen here, your arms at a great 90-degree angle here, wrists flat on the keyboard and resting so they have support. Most importantly, that back is flush against the backrest. When you're choosing a backrest, you want the backrest height to be situated just above your lower back, so that it fits in with the natural curvature of your spine. You can see the back of the thighs are flat against that chair and the feet are flat on the floor. And this would translate perfectly into that standing position. So if you see that correct posture for your sitting position, it's exactly the same standing, where you've got that natural curvature of the spine, that 90-degree angle of the elbows, rested wrists while you're typing, feet flat on the floor and hip width distance apart. Now, if we take a look at that professional treatment room, there are also some adjustments that we can implement here. So the image on the left-hand side that you see here, you can see that hunching over, curvature of the neck, curving of the upper spine, no support on that lower back, kind of sitting again on the edge of the seat and using those tippy toes. Whereas the correct posture here, you want to have the spine naturally curved, so very rested. If you're creating any awkward motion in your shoulders or in your spine in any way, the natural reaction of your body is to pull your shoulders up toward your ears. So you'll immediately feel that tension that can cause headaches, irritation, just a lot of pain in that area. So this image, you'll see, again, the back is flush against that backrest, just above the lower back. Elbows are tucked in nice and close to the body. This is not only going to help support your movement, but also give your movement the correct kind of pressure and flexibility as you cleanse the skin or as you do your touch therapy on the skin. You can see here, thighs flat against the bottom of the chair and feet flat on the floor. So if we think about specifically that treatment room and some alterations that we can implement into that treatment room, we can try and have those products at most an arm's length distance away. If you're using a trolley, try and switch up the side of that trolley, both feet flat on the floor, trying to be cognizant of that all the time. Using a chair that has wheels so that you can move around freely. When you're bending down, make sure that you're bending from the thighs, that you're squatting down. Also being mindful of the different treatments that you're doing. So are you performing a wax and then you're moving into a skin treatment? Adjust your bed for that wax. Adjust your bed so you're comfortable while you're performing that wax on your client. Let your client know, I want to make sure you're comfortable, but I also need to make sure that I'm comfortable. Linda's saying, yes, feet never touch the floor, need to sit for treatments. Absolutely. So make sure that that chair is lowered down. Heidi, always swinging your feet at the computer desk. Okay, so short chair as well. Usually also have to push the chair away and just stand. Otherwise, you sit on the edge of your chair. So try, if you can, either lowering your desk or even getting a footstool. So I, again, will let you in on a little secret here. My desk at home doesn't adjust height. So I have one of those exercise steps, and I've just used one of the blocks to heighten it, and I put that underneath my desk. So at any given point, my feet are flat on my step stool, and my hips are always at that 90-degree angle. So just a little tip there. Yeah, Linda, that chair is fantastic. Again, should be something that's available at any beauty supply store. Yeah, awesome. Now, having gone through all of that information, having gone through the way that we move, so often, because we're doing the same movements constantly throughout the day, it can lead to something called occupational overuse. Now, when we think about occupational overuse, this generally happens from any movement that's repetitive. Think about doing your cleansing routine. You're doing your cleansing routine constantly throughout the day, throughout the week, and more often it's the same movement. So here, what we want to focus on is including dynamic movement. So looking at how many times you're doing a skin treatment. Say you're doing a skin treatment 3 times a day, 5 days a week. That's 15 hours that you're doing the same kinds of movements in a week. What's really important here is to take a step back before your treatments, start doing some warm-up exercises. Things like flicking your fingers, almost singing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Stars, doing wrist rotations backwards and forwards, shoulder rolls, backwards, forwards, looking from your right to your left. Really just keeping those joints mobile and moving throughout the day. That you can do before you start your treatment and in between every client, so that you're not performing just the same movements throughout the day, every day. You're changing the way you're moving, and that might help to prevent that repetitive strain down the line. Now here, it's vital that we really create that dynamic movement, but also important that we know almost what we're up against. So some of the common repetitive strain injuries that we notice within the professional skincare industry, as well as if we are spending our day at a computer, are things like carpal tunnel syndrome. Now, carpal tunnel syndrome can affect the hands and the fingers, and it's caused by nerve compression in that area. It can cause sensations of tingling, burning, or numbness. And as professional skin therapists, this can be from that repetitive movement. But if we're working at a desk, it can also be from typing all day. Tendinitis is also something that's quite common in our industry. This is inflammation of the tendons. It can cause spasms, inflammation, sensitivity in our forearms, in our hands. Also, if we are typing all day, that can definitely be something that creates aggravation in the tendons. But the focus isn't just on the forearms and the hands. Yes, we use that every single day. Yes, that's our biggest focus. But so often, we can even find that we might get repetitive strain injuries in the lower half of our body, even though it feels like we're not using it every day. So looking at things like sciatica, which is nerve compression of a nerve root that's found in your lower back. This can create pain in your hip, in your legs, even in your ankles, even up to your abdomen, and it's caused by tension or compression of that nerve. So if you are someone who maybe crosses your legs one way throughout the day, so say you're crossing your right leg over your left leg throughout the day, that right leg is going to become much longer, it's going to stretch out, but that left leg isn't crossing over anything at all throughout the day. So that left leg can become tighter, the muscles can become shorter, it can create a lot of tension there, and that can actually compress on the nerve. So you could develop some of that dull, aching, lingering sciatic pain on the left side just from crossing your leg. The key thing to note here is not to cross your left leg over the right leg throughout the day, but try and have those 2 feet flat at a bent, that 90-degree bent angle, 2 feet flat on the floor. Linda, that's very sweet. Now, something that I think, again, is super important to understand, and so often when we have pain or when we think about how we deal with pain, we always head to stretching. You know, if you speak to anyone that says, I've hurt my shoulder or I have neck pain or something stiff, the immediate reaction is, oh, cool, you should absolutely stretch this area. But that's not necessarily always the case. I want to look at how we can rectify some of those postural concerns caused by weakness, caused by stiffness in the body, and really change the mindset that it's not all about stretching. Often it needs to come down to a synergistic relationship between both of them. It needs to be equal amount of strength, equal amount of stretching. And that comes down to different muscle groups or balances and how they work within the body. Specifically looking at your flexor and extensor balance and your protractor and retractor balance. Your flexor bends or flexes, so think about bringing your arm towards you. Your extensor extends away. Your protractor brings a part forward, so think about pushing your chest out. And your retractor pulls a part back, so pulling anything backward. The best example that I can use here is when we are doing our treatment. That focus on the muscles that we use are so much just the front of the body. The chest muscles that we're using, the arm muscles that we're using, we're putting so much pressure on those muscles that they eventually become overused and under quite a lot of stress. Whereas the muscles in the upper back, the muscles in the shoulders, in the neck, those can become quite long, quite stretched out, quite lazy, very unused. And this can create shorter muscles in the front, longer muscles in the back, and cause us to almost hunch over. But what we can do, if we're looking at those protractor and retractor muscles, we can work at really stretching out the chest muscle, but also strengthening the muscles in the upper back. So we're causing them to shorten instead of lengthen, and really increase the tensile agility of those muscles so that they're able to work in equilibrium, that the muscles in the upper shoulders and the upper back are able to pull their weight as much as the muscles in the front of the chest. So it really is all about that balance. Often if you find, you know, the front of your legs are a little bit tighter, it could be that the back of your legs are too weak to support. So try and do exercises and strength exercises that will help to create that equilibrium. Now remember that as with, you know, finding the perfect massage, finding the perfect treatment, finding the perfect chair, it's not a one size fits all. So really figuring out the kind of exercise that works for you. Is it yoga that incorporates resistant bands? Is it heavy weight training? Figuring out what gives you the best results is what's going to make your body stronger and happier and react the best toward the exercise, toward the treatments that you're performing. Now some anatomy and physiology. So I mentioned in the beginning of the workshop, we're going to focus on two different factors of anatomy and physiology, because for me, these really play the biggest roles when it comes to how we know how to take care of our bodies and how we understand what's happening inside the body. So first, we're going to take a look at your fascia. Now, fascia is a band of connected tissue beneath the skin that attaches to, stabilizes, and encloses and separates around muscle. It's an intricate system of collagen and elastin-based tissue, and it's a connective web that holds tissue together. Fascia is incredibly tensile and really, really strong, and it wraps around your muscles and your organs almost like bark on a tree. I always like to think of fascia this way. For those of you who have never experienced winter before, you're very lucky. For those of you like me who live in a beautiful country like Canada, but boy, oh boy, do we get a winter here. I always like to think of fascia as those really snug, supportive leggings that you wear in the middle of winter, that you know is going to hold you really close, keep you warm, keep you comfortable throughout the day. That's exactly what fascia does to your muscles. It wraps around your muscles, it wraps around your organs, and it's also very slippery. And with that slip and glide, it enables a lot of movement between those muscles and those organs throughout the day. But with age, with stress levels, with lack of movement, with poor posture, with dehydration, maybe poor dietary choices, our fascia can often become very rigid, very strained, and it can sometimes even develop ridges on the baseline of your fascia, causing a limit of movement. So this can actually cause strain on the way that we move, the way that we turn, the way that our body works, because that fascia is becoming drier and because it's becoming so much tighter and more rigid. When it comes to treatment solutions for your fascia, there are so many things that we can implement to help that fascia become less rigid, to help to loosen it up a little bit. Firstly, movement. Movement is so important when it comes to how hydrated fascia is and how flexible fascia is. Even if you're going for a walk, try and do those shoulder rolls as you're going for a walk. Maybe doing front arm rotations, back arm rotations, anything to create a lot more movement in the body. Hydration and diet is really crucial for fascia to maintain hydration. The more hydration the more hydrated it is, the more it maintains that slip and glide throughout your muscles and your organs, which is really what you're looking for. You can even implement things like foam rolling. Now, for me, the best foam roller that you can choose is something that's a lot firmer, something that has ridges in it, because that's really what's going to get into the fascia and help to alleviate some of the tension. Stretching regularly is also fantastic for fascia, so it really comes down to that mobility as well as the hydration. Any questions on fascia? Everyone feeling comfortable and confident so far with the information? Great, fantastic. Okay. Yay, amazing. Okay, let's take a look at muscles. Now, muscles provide actions and they attach to bone. You often find you only find three different kinds of muscle in the body. You'll find skeletal muscle. Now, skeletal muscle is voluntary. So this will allow you to choose the kind of movement you want to do. Think about those dreaded burpees or push-ups that you need to do. For those, you require your pectoralis major, which is a really thick fan-shaped muscle on the chest. This is what's going to allow you to push yourself up or push yourself away from something. That's skeletal muscle. You also have smooth muscle. Smooth muscle will surround your organs, and that will be things like your kidneys, and then cardiac muscle. Cardiac muscle is found in only one place, and it's found in your heart muscle. Now, muscles can have so many different effects on the body dependent on where they're tight, where there's an imbalance, where that fascia is constricting the muscle and maybe becoming stickier. Some common finds that I see when it comes to muscle tension, especially in our industry, doing the work that we're doing, is jaw tension. So if you think about the muscles in the jaw, you might think, okay, cool, they can definitely affect the muscles in the face because that's the area that they're in. But if you think about it, if we look at the back of the body here you'll see that the muscles in the jaw actually connect to the muscles in the upper back. So when you start getting headaches because you're grinding your teeth or clenching your jaw, it's because these muscles are starting to contract. If you start to find that breathing may be a little bit difficult, that you're almost gasping for air, it could be that you're grinding and clenching your teeth so much that it's pulling on these muscles, which surround your rib cage. If you find, and this was my aha moment, that your knees are starting to hurt and starting to become a little bit niggly, that you find when you're squatting or when you're running or cycling, that this can be a little bit painful or uncomfortable, it could be those jaw muscles that are getting so tight and so constricted and so inflamed from grinding and clenching your teeth that it's actually pulling on all of the muscles down your back, down the back of your leg, and pulling on the muscles on the side of your knees to cause that tension. An easy implementation that you can use every single day to help you is placing the tip of your tongue at the top of your palate behind your front teeth, like this. I then want you to open your mouth as wide open as it can possibly go. Hold for a few seconds. You can do this 10 times, a couple of times a day, and that will help to keep the muscles and the fascia in this area a lot more lubricated, very flexible, so nothing's going to lock or create any irritation. But it will also help with any of that pain that you're feeling lower down. Another common occurrence that I think we've all experienced in our industry is foot pain. Now, foot pain can come from improper posture, from not wearing the correct shoes. So here, orthotics are really, really important. Choosing the right kind of orthotics are very important. But also thinking about the kind of movements that you're performing. Exercise is fantastic, but we want to make sure that we're maintaining dynamic movement throughout our lives. So if you love cycling, try not cycle every single day because that's using the same muscle group. Try and implement other ways of increasing dynamic movement throughout the day. For example, if you are someone who loves cycling, I know our cycle season is almost over here because we're heading into winter. But if you are someone who loves cycling, you might find that your calf muscles are really, really tight because they work really hard. Because those calf muscles get so tight, they can actually pull on the ligaments and the tendons in your feet, creating something that we call plantar fasciitis, which is a pull on the ligaments and the tendons in your foot. It almost creates a burning, almost stabbing pain in the heel of your foot, or alternatively, it can just create a lot of foot pain. So here, what you can do is grab a plastic water bottle, fill it with water, pop it into your freezer. Once it's completely frozen solid and you're having a wonderful evening, watching your favorite show on Netflix, go grab the bottle and put it underneath the bare sole of your foot and just roll backward and forward. That's going to help alleviate a lot of the tension, a lot of the discomfort in that area, and help increase the blood flow once you've removed the cold compression from it. That will also help to increase the blood flow in that calf muscle, and going for a regular massage will help to alleviate the tightness in that area as well. Some stretches that we can look at implementing every single day, and this is something that we can do every day, are things like your chest stretch. Remember we spoke about how tight and short those muscles can get and how much longer the muscles in the back can get. So doing a chest stretch by placing your forearm flat against a pillar, the side of your door frame, and moving your body to the other side will open up this whole area. It's almost like a big juicy yawn for that chest muscle. You can repeat that on the other side. Getting movement in the shoulders is also very important every single day. So just swinging your arms back and forward, swapping as you go. So first right over left, then left over right, and swinging as far back as you can go. This you can do before and after every single client. Getting the mobility in your lower half of the body is also very important. So doing calf stretches, really just pushing yourself against the wall, lengthening that calf muscle. Go as far as you can go. Remember that with all or any kind of stretching, it's never supposed to be deeply uncomfortable. There might be a little bit of pain, but as soon as you feel like it's very uncomfortable, stop right there. It might take you some time to get to where you need to go, but rather go slower and prevent any injuries. And then finally, a hip stretch. Really important here to maintain that hip mobility. The person in this video is incredibly flexible. My hips are not that flexible yet. So here, you know, even if it's just leaving your hip stretch leg flat on the floor and giving it pressure with the other side, that's perfect. Stay where you can, stay where it's comfortable. You can even grab a towel and wrap it around the ankle of the leg that's being stretched so that you aren't going as far. So really being able to customize there. Sure, absolutely. I can play the first one for you again. These videos are actually from an app called Anatomy 2021. It isn't on the teaching website, but it is on an app. Alternatively, check out YouTube. YouTube has so many various stretches that you can do. You know, you can check chest stretches, leg stretches, hip stretches, and so many of those will come up. You're welcome. Fantastic. Jessica, just to answer your question, TMJ will work the same as grinding and clenching your teeth because it creates a lot of friction in that area. With that friction, it creates a lot of that muscle tension and a lot of that muscle irritation. So it for sure will. Sure, absolutely. So if we're repeating that jaw stretch, you're going to take the tip of your tongue and place it behind the top of your back teeth. Yeah, the top of your front teeth. So here. You're then going to open your mouth as wide as possible. Hold for a few seconds and then close. You'll repeat this up to 10 times and start with twice a day. Let me know if you're good with that. Perfect. Okay. Now, some home care tips that we can include, you know, various massage movements like kneading the thigh that you can include, kneading the calf that you can include. Some diaphragmatic breathing is fantastic, really to help get that air in effectively, but also keep the mobility in the lungs and the rib cage. So for that diaphragmatic breathing, if you take palm of your hand and put it at the top of your belly, so really at the center of your rib cage, take a deep breath in. And as you're breathing in, I really want you to feel your belly rise. So a nice big deep breath in. And as you're breathing out, I almost want you to picture your belly button being sucked to the back of your spine. So really getting your belly button deep inside, all the way to the back of your spine. Another way to do diaphragmatic breathing is by placing both palms on the side of your rib cage, taking a deep breath in here, feeling the rib cage almost expand open, and as you're breathing out, again, sucking that belly button into the back of the spine, really feeling those ribs contract. This is fantastic to help increase that mobility in the rib cage, but also works really, really well on the transverse muscles in your spine and in your core. So if you're working at that core strength, if maybe you're even trying for a baby, working on those transverse muscles in the back will help support your baby during your pregnancy. It's also those muscles that really help keep us standing upright throughout the day. So doing diaphragmatic breathing a couple of times a day will really work those muscles. And because it's so focused, you have the option of just focusing on working those muscles as concentrated work. Your hydrotherapy and cryotherapy is really the differences between hot and cold. Now, applying heat to the body can enable relaxation. It can help to release any tension in muscle tissue. It can really help create more pliability in the muscle. Whereas if you're applying cold, think about, rolling that bottle of iced water on your feet. If you have sore feet or if you do cycle, that cold can help decrease the blood flow for a short period of time, but then rapidly increase that oxygenated blood flow as you move forward. So those are really two fantastic options that you can include. Like Jen saying, a weekly warm soak, absolutely, that is fantastic. That hot bath is, not only great for your body, but also great for your mind, is just to take some time out. A rule here is always remember as warm as possible and as warm as necessary and as cold as possible. And if you are implementing anything cold, it's only for a maximum of 10 minutes. After that, no more cold. I want you to think about burnout. Now, if you think about just in general, what does burnout mean to you? What do you think you would feel like if you reached burnout or if you were heading towards burnout? How would you feel? Beyond capacity, absolutely. Stress, crying, frustrated, tired, all of those things. Not wanting to get out of bed, exhausted, stressed. All of those things can absolutely lead to burnout. What's critical here is that we don't let ourselves get to that stage, that we really look at taking care of ourselves before we get to that burnout stage. Some tips there, including things like manual therapy. Now, when you're looking at manual therapy, this can be manual massage. I have some of my absolute favorites, looking at things like lymphatic drainage massage, deep tissue or Swedish massage, Bowen therapy, which works on fascia, or cupping. Now, again, like exercise, massage works in exactly the same way. Figuring out what works best for your body is crucial. If you find that you have a lot of inflammation, something like lymphatic drainage might be the best option for you. If you have a lot of very tense muscles and you benefit a lot from the physiological benefit of hands on your skin during a massage, a deep tissue or Swedish massage might help to melt away that tension. If you think that it's maybe a fascial concern, that you really are finding you have limited movement, Bowen therapy could be a fantastic addition. This, I find, for me, really is an unsung hero. It works specifically on tense, uncomfortable fascia and works on the entire body as a whole. It involves a Bowen practitioner performing fascial rolling on the skin. And then cupping. Kimber, you got it. That's exactly how you spell it. Amazing, Linda. Fascial release, absolutely fantastic. It offers almost instantaneous benefit. Anna, like you're saying, you love cupping. Cupping works fantastically, especially if you have very tight, almost rigid muscles that don't really want to move around much, because cupping will create a suction cup over that muscle, pull it up into the cup and create that separation. So you're already breaking up a lot of that grit and tension in the fascia and in the muscle. Now, your cupping practitioner can decide whether they're doing drainage movement or whether they're just leaving the cups where they are. It really depends on what your needs are, but that's also a fantastic option to include. Linda, gua sha will absolutely help. Gua sha is fantastic for the face, but when you're looking at those bigger muscle groups, you want something a little bit larger to work with. But if you're getting underneath the shoulder blade, if you're looking at just doing some lymphatic drainage, maybe on your calf all the way up to the back of your knee. A gua sha stone would be fantastic for that. Yeah. Emotional awareness is crucial, especially when we feel like we're heading toward that burnout phase. You know, it's so important for us to acknowledge how we feel, acknowledge what we feel, and allow us to understand that it's okay to feel things. Something that I always suggest and something that I always try to put into practice is to really sit with your feelings, understand why you're feeling what you're feeling, and allow yourself to say, cool, I'm done feeling this feeling now, so I'm going to let go of it, or allow myself to forgive whatever it was. You want to allow yourself to be as free and happy as possible. So acknowledge your feelings, don't shy away from them, but really be aware of what's happening with your emotions. I am an avid advocate of outside. My favorite place is going hiking, going camping. Put me in the middle of the woods and I am a happy girl. I think during the pandemic, there's been a huge focus on going outside, and there's a term that's been surrounded by it called rewilding. Kimber, anytime, you're so welcome. I love hiking company and camping company. But rewilding focuses not just on taking a walk in the woods or going for a hike in the woods, but it focuses on actually being. So taking some time to be still, to be, to feel, to hear while you're outside. So hearing the birds tweet, hearing the sounds of nature, feeling the grass beneath your feet, sitting near a tree, maybe reading next to a tree, and just absorbing your surroundings can actually help to lower your cortisol levels and help almost as a reset for your mind frame. All of these tie in perfectly to Mental Health Day, which is on the 10th of October. So I really encourage you all this coming weekend. For those of you who are in Canada, it's Thanksgiving. For those of you everywhere else around the world, take some time for you, whether it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes, go spend some time outside. In the Northern Hemisphere, we've got the incredible fall colors starting. In the Southern Hemisphere, you've got beautiful spring starting to bud. Take some time just to go outside and breathe and feel what you need to feel, but also be aware of your surroundings. Always be cognizant of how you're standing and sitting in a treatment room, and try and ensure that you're always as comfortable as you possibly can be while you're working to ensure that you have a healthy, happy, long career. I cannot thank you all enough for spending this time with me. Heidi, no problem. You're so welcome. Yes, Kimber, taking pictures of tiny nature. You're so welcome. Does anyone have any questions for me? You're so welcome. What did everyone love about this? What were your favorite things? While you're getting that through, I'm going to hand over to Beth. Beth, thank you so much for having me. It was incredible. Again, thank you.
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. I mean, I think even though you and I have talked on Instagram, we, obviously talk through work. I'm excited to let everybody know who's tuning in that we have a podcast coming up with Dee, and so that's really impactful as well. But I mean, I think everyone has tuned in today is leaving you all comments that are just like so amazing, very cool. Is another one. Everyone loved learning about not only your amazing tips on alignment. I feel like I'm sitting straighter just because I'm listening to you. But the exercises, the massage tips, like all of this is just very relevant, I think, for everyone. And, I love how everyone's just bringing like a new level of mindfulness and awareness to human ergonomics, thanks to you. So we do have a few questions. The first question is asking from Jen B, is that she has thrown her back out a few times for reaching or like not engaging her core. Do you recommend if you actually like turn your body, maybe in a swivel in your chair to the cart and trolley? Do you think that would help versus she's a little nervous, I think, to be like reaching, afraid to tweak her back again?
Yeah, I mean, that's totally fair. I think if you have any kind of injury like that, it always makes you so wary before you do anything similar again. When it comes to any kind of back injury, the core here is your core. So something that you could do is that diaphragmatic breathing that we discussed, where you're focusing on, you know, raising that belly out and sucking it back in. So you're working on those smaller, juicy muscles that help to keep our spine up. That's really what's going to strengthen your back. And then, like Beth mentioned, you know, turning your chair completely before you get anything to avoid too much rotation. Something to be mindful of here, though, is you don't want to limit the rotation. The more you limit the rotation, the less movement you're going to have. So try and work on that core strength. Try and do, you know, focused exercises and consistent exercises where you are doing a little bit of rotation, maybe getting a, you know, a broomstick that you can hold onto and twisting gently to either side, moving the whole upper body to one side and the whole upper body to the other side. It doesn't have to be, you know, completely rotated. Just see how far you can go. Do that every single day, and the more you do it, the more those muscles will start to work, and the more you'll get that flexibility. And then, you know, back strengthening exercises, either with a resistance band, with lighter weights, until you can get to those heavier weights.
Okay, perfect. I know. I looked at some of the comments here. People were already stretching. Wow. The course today, which is always fantastic. So I do believe you had answered the question about the exercises. You mentioned that was what, Anatomy 2021, is that correct?
Yeah, it's an app called Anatomy 2021. There's also a really cool wiki page called Muscle Wiki. And it's incredible. So this, you can actually pick a muscle group and it will list all of the exercises that you can do for that muscle group. So say you're choosing, you know, Wednesday is for shoulders. So you can just point to the shoulders, click it on the screen, and it will come up with all of the shoulder exercises that you can do with weights or with your body weight. And that's called Muscle Wiki.
Okay, and so I think someone popped up on chat asking if we could say the app again for the exercises. That was Anatomy 2021. We can type that right here for you guys into the Zoom webinar chat. Another question we have here in regards to, like, after you work like a long day, you have mentioned sometimes even in the morning that you could have a little bit of like fluid retention or some puffiness. So the question from Jen here, it says, do you suggest placing our legs on the wall at the end of the night to relax and circulate any collected fluid? She says that she is short as well. Her feet fall asleep sometimes. And she's, you know, she's sitting all day. So that's a good tip.
You and I are in the same boat there, Jen. So yes, absolutely. That's fantastic. Putting your legs up after a long day of work will just help to redirect that lymphatic fluid. You know, unlike our blood that our heart has to pump throughout our body all day, our lymphatic fluid doesn't have a pump. So it's up to us to create that manual manipulation of the tissue to get that lymphatic fluid to clear out. So, you know, lying on your back with your feet up against the wall is fantastic. Taking a warm bath with Epsom salts, because that helps with the magnesium content, which will help that lymphatic flow. Dry body brushing is also fantastic. You know, brushing from the ankles all the way up to your hips, great at helping to relieve a lot of that muscle tissue, the lymphatic fluid, sorry.
Okay, perfect. The other question is, and this may have been when you were talking about some of the like types of therapies that you could do to really help yourself like de-stress and unwind. There's a question from Jessica asking, what do you think about wood therapy? Have you heard anything about wood therapy? I personally haven't.
Like WOOD?
Yeah, WOOD. Maybe Jessica, if she's still on the chat with us, she can give us a little bit more insight. So I think that there are like a lot of different types of therapies out there. I'm just, you know, curious, Jessica, if you're still with us, you can give us a little bit more detail.
Yeah.
That would be super helpful. So that had just popped up. And I think that is, you know, all the questions that everyone else has. I know a lot of people were asking you questions during the webinar, and you can't thank you enough for just taking the time and immediately answering those. That's what makes these webinars so fun and so interactive as well. So you are on Instagram, right, for your
Yep.
professional handle, and then we put
Yes.
that in the chat box. So if you guys want to follow Dee on Instagram and get more inspiring tips around not only just skincare from Dermalogica, but as well as body alignment and really taking care of yourself, definitely tune into that. And I just can't thank you enough for being here. This has been fantastic.
I am so grateful to have done this, Beth. It was such an honor for me and really just such an incredible experience. I'm thrilled that you all loved it, and I'm again just so thankful and so grateful to have been here and to have shared information with everyone.